The city has changed their attitudes towards us, the Committee of Sheffield Road. They used to decide for us, now we're deciding together.
I have an advantage of having worked on a partnership approach for 2 years now. We saw informal settlements as an initiative of the people to actually help themselves out of desperation. And then from there, we recognized that we needed to work with the people so as to map the way forward.
It's a realization that is changing the course of urban poverty in South Africa. As informal settlement communities organize and network themselves, government is changing the way it works in order to make cities more inclusive. They are walking the path together.
When we started in 1991, we had a conference and we decided that this is the time that the poor people should organize themselves, come together and address their own issues that are affecting their lives. We identified issues that we have to strictly address, issues of homelessness, landlessness and poverty.
This conference, held outside Broederstroom, brought together shack dwellers from across the country, as well as activists in poor communities from elsewhere in Africa and Asia.
I think it was coming from the first people's dialogue of people from poor communities and informal settlements, where there was this delegation from India who had a lot of experience. So very poor people from the streets of India who, when sharing with us their experiences, had a lot of very rich stories of poor people's struggles. So for us, it was very good to go and see for ourselves, get first-hand experience. What is this organizing around women and savings? Poor people and poor people's communities, especially informal settlement communities, used to be last on the agenda. It was during the time of political struggle, and poor communities always got the raw deal of things. This notion of having a mass movement of poor communities dealing with their own issues and building solidarity amongst the poor had already started in India in the form of the National Slum Dwellers Federation of India.
These exchanges to India would soon lead to the formation of what is now called the Federation of the Urban Poor.
We stayed there for almost 20 days, learning how to organize women, learning how to make sure that we open doors with government, that loans are given to the poor people to improve their lives. When coming back to South Africa, I started to say, let me try it in my community. Savings is the first component. We use it as a mobilizing tool and as a leverage to attract more resources from outside institutions and government. We use exchange programs to visit each other and learn from each other the new ideas on how to address our own issues that affect our lives, and to educate each other on how to implement our own programs. And then we use enumeration as an information gathering process, whereby we use that information to negotiate with municipalities, provincial government, and national government. It is focusing on women, the empowerment of women. It's something that makes this organization very unique. We created the partnership with the Department of Land Affairs. We also created the partnership with the Department of Housing. In 1995, they pledged an amount of 10 million rand. We were able to build over 1,000 houses.
Joe Slovo, the first Minister of Housing, made this pledge of 10 million rands. Each subsequent minister has seen the work of the Federation and pledged further funds. Now the Federation enables poor communities throughout the country to build for themselves. Approximately 15,000 houses have been constructed through such partnerships.
If I reflect a bit back in time, some people occupied land in what is now called the Joe Slovo settlement, and you invited me there and I spent a night as your guest in one of the shacks, and I think we tried to walk a path together since then.
Our community now is like a suburb. Before it was an area with bushes and shacks, but now we've got a beautiful community that has engaged different developers, that you see different sizes of houses and people are very happy.
When I went out to the projects, I saw things happening.
As what happened with the land in Joe Slovo. We invaded land, then we opened the process of negotiating with the Department of Land Affairs. Then fortunately the partnership created a positive result. Finally the people got security of tenure, and then the very same Department of Land Affairs gave the subsidy for infrastructure. And it was the infrastructure that was driven by the community. Even today, the community is proud to use that infrastructure. They benefited what they couldn't have benefited if this relationship couldn't have been there.
People who are living under those circumstances, they know what it's about. They have a better idea of what can be done and how things can be done in order to address some of the challenges.
Since the early 1990s, the Federation has worked with informal settlement communities to collect household-level information. These activities are known as enumeration.
Enumeration, for me, is the entry point to poor people's communities. The poor are very rich in a lot of ways. Information, participation, giving direction. We used to be community leaders who had no information about our communities and ourselves. We used to ask the cities if they knew how many we were. So enumeration is actually knowing how many people live in your community, what their needs are, how many people are unemployed, how many people have skills, how many children live in that community who are not even attending school, the issues that confront ourselves as community leaders and our government are the issues of priorities. Housing comes later after identifying the simple issues of electricity, access to water, access to sanitation.
Sharing this information has often been a key method for building partnerships with authorities for policy making, planning, and implementing projects. This is how citywide networks of informal settlement communities make space for their informed voice to be heard in the corridors of power.
The poor are not necessarily ready because of government abuse in many ways for the last 15 years, appropriating the development process. And so we need to walk a long road.
Our first riot started in 2007. It was a very simple riot. Where we are, we know it's a township. Start recognizing it and work from there.
The small municipality of Stellenbosch has a housing backlog officials estimate will take 100 years to clear at current rates.
It was just basically a formality. The vested interests within the municipality, technocrats and bureaucrats and even politicians, they were always in control of the development process. And it's hard to relinquish control. For the community has bloomed in the enumeration process. For the first time, we have decent data as a government. And so they have reflected in their own way, their own community to us.
Sheffield Road is an informal settlement built on a road reserve in the city of Cape Town. Though it was not part of city plans, the community came together to gather information, save, and plan its future.
Through our savings, we contributed in the project that is upgrading Sheffield Road now, and because of our savings, we've got the ownership of the project. We are owning the project.
And we decided that if the people of Sheffield Road have got the energy and the drive to actually improve their lives, we should not let them suffer, but rather let's work with them. So it was the community's initiative.
It's an example that the community networks linked to Shack Dwellers International in South Africa are pioneering throughout the country. These include the Informal Settlement Network, known as ISN, and Fed Up. By joining hands with government at all levels, informal settlement communities are leading the way to their own development.
If these are recognized and are trusted with a role to play, we have already seen the differences. In Ekurhuleni, in Johannesburg, in Durban, in the Western Cape, we've seen that these formations make a difference. They speak a language of working together. These formations of poor people's movements are the answer to the future of this country.
In any relationship, there are hard and fast views that must be challenged and relinquished to grow together, and we're growing together.
There'll be times when we differ, but if we try and walk it together, we'll learn from each other and we'll be able to get things done better. And I think that was the very early approach. I really hope that we haven't come to the end of walking that path, that we've still got new roads that we want to walk together.
To achieve what we have achieved now, it's because we have to learn from others. They said you have to walk the path that others have already walked.
If the poor know, the poor will deliver for themselves.
If the government can learn to quell the scourge of houses in South Africa, you have to involve the community themselves. Schemes such as Fed Up and other schemes, and then they build their own houses.
The issue now is for governments to be able to get out of their pride, come down, and realize that we haven't got enough time left. It is communities that have to be respected. And I think in every protest you go to, people are crying of not being listened to, not being taken into account, no transparency.
We can learn also from the government, and also the government can learn a thing or two from us.